attacks him and criticizes him for his lamentation. He criticizes him for expressing all of the grief that he has in his life. And he told him that he wasn't blameless and told him that he didn't fear God. But we know from the beginning that he was blameless and that he did fear God. So we know that Eliphaz is wrong, and we know that his attitude is wrong just naturally, knowing that you don't come into a man that's suffering like that and begin to attack him for something he did in the past and you don't know what it was. So Eliphaz said that innocent people don't suffer, only guilty people suffer. So he's saying Job is guilty, and he's saying that God is wrong. So that's what happened in Eliphaz's speech. Undeserved suffering and undeserved grace do not fit into his worldview. So that's where we're starting at in our lesson this morning. He's saying that Job deserved what he's getting, what happened to him. His loss of children, his loss of home, his loss of wealth, his loss of health. And with that type of attitude always comes arrogance. If I'm living a good life because I'm a good man and I deserve it, and you're living a poor life because you're a bad man and you deserve it, how can I not say that I'm better than you? And this is what happens to Job's friends. They become arrogant. They become like the Pharisees in the New Testament. They are saying now things that I'm better than you are, and they can criticize, and they criticize because of their superiority. That's one of the big problems between Job and his friends as they go through here. I'm not suffering at the hand of God, therefore I'm better than you. Now, this is a summation of some things that we've looked at. This is Eliphaz's worldview. And we saw that his worldview is actually based on three things. Number one, what he has seen, his experience. I've seen these things. These are the things I've seen. And then he heard secret voices. He says, God showed me these things. God spoke to my heart. You haven't received this message the way I have. And when someone says, God told me, we need to be careful. When someone says, God placed this in my heart, when someone says, God spoke to me, I heard a voice, God talked to me and told me the things that I'm supposed to tell you, we know that we have got to watch out for those type of people because of what it says right here about Eliphaz. And then in the 5th chapter, he said, I figured this out for myself. And this happens a lot. Everybody's sitting around figuring out what is going on in the world, what is going on with God. We look at something horrible that happens and we begin to figure out how that is. And this just means I'm smarter than you. I've thought these things through. I've worked them through and you haven't. I can't tell you how many times in the last 5 years or so I've had some other person say, I used to be where you are in studying the Bible. I used to have this belief that you have, but now I've come superior. Seriously. So we have Eliphazes running all over the world today. We have them who say, I look at the world and I see what God's doing. And we have people that say, I got a message from God. And we have people that say, I'm more progressed than you are because I have seen these things and I have figured these things out. And because of how he gained his knowledge, we saw that he had no sympathy. He just has no sympathy whatsoever for Job. And he came to sympathize with him. That was the reason that they came, to give comfort and sympathy. But they have no sympathy for him because they are in this arrogant position. And we find out that he had no such belief as undeserved suffering. Job's getting what he deserved. We just don't know what you did yet, Job, but when we find out, we'll know exactly why you're getting the problems that you are. And if there's no undeserved suffering, there's no undeserved grace. And they don't deliver it. If they haven't been given undeserved grace, then certainly they don't give anyone undeserved grace. There's no Satan. There's no Satan. There's no evil forces at work in his system. So in his system, in Eliphaz's and the other system, there's no place for Satan in here. But we know for a fact that Satan is in this system. And there's no waiting. In his system, It's your best life now. What happens now is what you deserve. If you do good, you deserve good in this life. But we saw from the very beginning, and that's why we spent some time in the book of James showing how Job's parameters are laid out so that we understand that the end comes at the end, that we're not waiting for the good things in this life. We're waiting for the return of Christ. And so there's no room for them to understand that we might not have everything we want now, but we're going to have everything later when it comes to the end. So there's no waiting in his system. There's no patience in his system. There's no endurance in his system to wait until the return of the Lord. And there's no place for a Savior. There's no place for a cross. There's no place for redemption. There's no place for this to be changed, even if he did do something wrong. And there's no room for the gospel. He has no good news for the suffering man in front of him. So Job and his friends share this worldview. This is the same worldview that Job has. But the difference is Job is now suffering, and he knows that it's undeserved, and Job is going to now have to come to terms with the fact that he may not have all the answers. And so as we go through the book, we're going to see Job growing, Job questioning, Job attacking. Job's going to say, why is it this way? Why can't it be that way? His friends are going to stay right solid. They're never going to change. But Job's going to begin to grow and to ask questions, and they're the very questions that we ask, and they're the very questions that we have answers for. And the reason we have answers for them is because of Jesus Christ. And so Job is preparing us for gospel. Job is preparing us for eternity by looking at how the world is working right now and what God's doing in the background. So they share this same worldview. They all believe that God is sovereign. And they all believe that there's no such thing as undeserved suffering. But Job knows, and we know, that Job is blameless, and he's not suffering for something that he's done. So even though they do not believe in undeserved suffering, there is undeserved suffering, and Job has to grapple with that. This is the difference between Job and his friends. Job is a true believer. He's not a believer who can have his best life now. He's a true believer who wants to hang on. So Job, on top of the suffering and the loss and the questioning God, must now face the attacks of his friends, which are identical to the attack of Satan. They've become the servants of Satan. They become the spokesman of Satan. Satan is the accuser. At the very beginning of the book, he accused Job of fearing God for what he could get out of it. And he accused God of giving him stuff so that he would follow him. So his friends say, you must have some secret sin. They say that you're not even fearing God. And Job's friends become Job's accusers. Job's friends then become the agent of Satan. And that's where we're sitting, and that's where we're at now. So in Job chapter 6, Job's reply to the accusations of his reply to the accusations are, "Oh, that my grief were actually weighed and laid in the balances together with my calamity. For then it would be heavier than the sands of the sea. Therefore my words have been rash." I look in other translations because we all have different translations, and sometimes you get in there and somebody's got a word that's so different you wonder what it means. And then I'm not going to be able to answer that. So I try to look ahead and see if our translations are so different sometimes that we may need to spend some time discussing that. And I was looking at the ESV. And the ESV has the same word, vexation, as back in chapter 5, when Eliphaz accuses Job of having vexation. So that word that we see in the New American Standard Bible is grief, but it's the same word that Eliphaz uses. So Job is answering Eliphaz at this point. That's what's going on here. Eliphaz says, you're angry, Job, and you're vexed, and your anger and your grief, and you're saying things that are foolish because of your anger. And people do that. When you go up to somebody and they're in all kinds of anguish and they're in all kinds of pain and they say something, you don't take everything literally now that this is what they believe. Now they're speaking from emotion because of their pain and because of their suffering or because of their loss. And Eliphaz ridicules him for speaking that way. So Eliphaz says, you're angry, Job, and because you're angry and because you're vexed and because you're grief-stricken, you're saying foolish things. You're talking like a fool. And you say these foolish things because you're angry. You're just being foolish. Calamity, we can see. You can look at these hurricanes that we've had. You can look at these fires that we've had, a tsunami, and you can see this calamity. But someone that's lived through that, you can't measure that grief. You can't grasp that grief, and everyone processes that grief differently. So you can measure how much calamity has happened to a person. I was reading an article just yesterday morning on how they figure out how much it's going to cost to fix a hurricane-damaged city. And they'll, as soon as the hurricane's up, they'll say it'll be $38.7 billion to fix this. So how do you figure that out? You can see the calamity. You can see the destruction, and they got some kind of formula where they go through, here's how many houses, here's how many streets, here's how much infrastructure, and they add it all up on how much it's going to cost to fix that. But how do you put a price on the suffering and the grief that these people have? And that's what Job's bringing up right now. So Job answers back, my words match my condition. They match my pain and they match my grief. My words are not foolish. My words are appropriate. These are the words that you get out of a man who is suffering like this. And so he says, measure my pain, weigh my pain, put it in a balance and put it next to my calamity. My vexation, my grief here is appropriate for what has happened to me. You ever go into the emergency room and they want you to rate your pain? They want you to tell you, what's your pain? Could you rate your pain for me? I give it a hearty 2 thumbs up. It's some great pain. I really got it going. Brian Reagan, the comedian, has an actual skit that he does on driving himself to the emergency room, and he deals with that. How do you rate your pain? And so you don't want to go overboard and say my pain's a 10 and have them just put you to sleep. And you don't want to go too light where they don't take you serious. So you have to kind of figure out what kind of pain do I want to tell them so that I can get some relief for this. So you go in there and how do you rate your pain? And everyone's got a different pain tolerance. Some people can take a lot more pain. I was in the emergency room one time and I thought I was dying, and they came back and told me I had a kidney stone. Now, my pain level didn't change, but my anxiety level did. I went from I'm in a lot of pain and I think I'm going to die to I'm in a lot of pain and I think they can fix this eventually. So the anxiety level changed even though the pain level didn't change. He has an anxiety level and a pain level and a loss level that is just enormous. The greatest the world has ever seen till Jesus went to the cross. And he says it's appropriate. What I'm saying here is appropriate. Now, what we're about to see here, I think, is some of the most important things in the book of Job for us to understand what's going on here. He says, for the arrows of the Almighty are within me. Their poison my spirit drinks. The terrors of the Lord are arrayed against me. We have the word for here. For, wherefore, and therefore, some of the most important words in the entire Bible, because they're the reasons for something. Every time you come across in the New Testament in Paul's writings, I think when I taught the book of Hebrews, I counted over 200 fors, wherefores, and therefores, and because of us. Because of this, the reason for this, here's the reason. This is the reason that his anxiety is appropriate to his grief. And it's kind of surprising. This is the key to understanding the book. This is his answer to Satan, and this is his answer to his accusers. It's not because of his loss of wealth, his loss of his loved ones, his loss of his health. It's not because of all of this. It's because God attacked him. His grief isn't its greatest because of his loss. His grief is its greatest because it came from God. It's because God attacked me. The terrors of God are against me. And so we see that even through this pain and the suffering that he's had and the loss and the misery and the uncertainty, the biggest anxiety is the attacks are coming from God. Why is God against me? I fear God. I've been blameless before God. I turn from evil. Why is he doing this? And so Job's not asking for relief. He's asking for an explanation. You remember we had Bill Maher up in the first class, and he likes to talk about Job and he likes to ridicule God. He said, God knows life is horrible. It's right there in the Bible. The book of Job is all about Job asking God to take away pain and misery. And God says, I can't take away your pain and misery because then no one would talk to me. Job didn't ask God to take away the pain. He didn't ask God to get anything back. He asked for an explanation. He asked for an explanation from his God as to why this is happening. Maher misses the point because Job is a true believer in God already. Now, verse 5. Does the wild donkey bray over his grass, or does the ox low over his fodder? Can something tasteless be eaten without salt, or is there any taste in the white of an egg? My soul refuses to touch them. They are like loathsome food to me. In verse 5, he says, the animal doesn't beller when it's being fed. If you've ever been to a dairy farm where they feed the animals inside and they all come in mooing, what a racket moo. When I was a kid, I remember there was always one cow that didn't just go moo, he went moo. That was the hungriest one. And I always thought that was the most hilarious thing, listening to the cow go moo. But as soon as the hay got or whatever got dropped down into the trough, they all got quiet. All you could hear was munching and slurping. And then they were happy. They didn't moo after that. They could take them back outside. Once they were fed, they quit mooing. And so that's what he says here. I'm complaining here against you because you're not feeding me anything. What's the first two things the doctor tells you when you walk into the doctor's office? Quit eating salt and cut down on the cholesterol. This is the same advice Job's been getting back here thousands of years ago. It doesn't taste any good without salt on it. And quit eating, just eat the egg whites. That's what he's been told here. He says, you guys aren't giving me any nutrition. You're not giving me anything that tastes good. You're not helping me whatsoever with what you're telling me here. So Job's friends show up and they think that he's going to get some pity, that he's going to get some sympathy, maybe even get some answers or some help so that he can carry on. But instead he gets these long, boring theories of what happened. And they're not solutions, they're accusations. They're actually making it worse, thinking that they're giving him some sympathy. The barnyard animals don't bellow when they're being fed. And Job says, I'm bellowing because I cannot eat what you're feeding me. It has no taste and it has no nutrition. It is absolutely of no help whatsoever. There's no explanation. There's only accusation. And the accusation is false. You've given me nothing to ease my pain. So, when a sufferer comes up, and they're in absolute anguish, and they just found out their loved one died in a plane crash. My loved one just died in a plane crash. What words do you have for me? Well, here's NASA's explanation of what happened in the plane, and this should help you. There was a downwash, and the pressure difference across the wind surface caused air spillage around the wingtips. This downwash caused a locally induced angle of attack, which reduces lift. So the lift coefficient formula, which is C equals C10 divided by 1 plus C10 divided by pi times the aspect ratio, which is the wingspan divided by the area, and that should tell you why your loved one died in a plane crash. Does that help anyone? There's the physics of it. There's the physics of what happened. Or the math is a little more complicated here, but this is basically what goes up must come down. This is not an explanation. This is of no help whatsoever, even though what those things are true. They're mathematically, they're physically true. But they're of absolutely no help to a person who's suffering, wanting to know why this is happening to them. So, this isn't what Job is asking. This isn't what Job is needing. On top of all of that, Job is being told that it's his own fault, but we know that it is not. Okay. Oh, that my request might come to pass and that God might grant my longing. What was Job's request? In chapter 3, what was his request? That he'd be dead. That he never be born. Oh, that God would grant this request of mine. that I never be born, that I be dead, that he take me right now. And he's going to bring that up again. Would that God be willing to crush me, and he would loose his hand and cut me off. So back in chapter 3, verse 22, Job wanted to die. Job wanted to have never been born. And so what's his hope here? That God just crush him. That crush him from the very beginning. Now, back in chapter 4, Eliphaz says, is not your fear of God your confidence, and the integrity of your ways your hope? Is the fear of God his confidence? Is the fear of God his confidence? And is the integrity of his ways his hope? Okay, let's say I did good. I rescued a kitty from a burning building, and I got a medal. Do I put my hope in that? Do I put my confidence before God in that? I don't, do I? Now I have a works-based religion. Eliphaz says, isn't your fear of God your confidence? No. Isn't your integrity, the thing that you do good, the fact that you're blameless, isn't that your confidence? No. My hope is in God. My hope is not in me. Do you see how he has that backwards? He's put his hope in himself. And Job says, no, I have not. I've never put my hope in myself. I put my hope in my God. That's why I live blameless. That's why I have integrity. That's why I fear God. Because of God. Because God is God, I live this way. That's the backwards thinking that's so hard for us to get. That's gospel thinking. When you join the Boy Scouts, you go out and you earn merit badges. You go out and you earn things, and you get rewarded for things you earn. When you go to work, you work hard and you get paid for what you have done. But in gospel, in God, God is God. And the gospel saves, and grace is free, and therefore I do these things. God is doing everything backwards from what we do. When you're in the Boy Scouts, there's nothing wrong with earning a merit badge. It teaches you things. When you go to work, there's nothing wrong with you earning your paycheck. You deserve that paycheck because of the work that you did. But when it comes to gospel and it comes to God, now we're probing the very idea of undeserved grace. Now we're probing the very idea that God is so glorious and God is so pure and God is so wonderful that we put our hope in him, and then we live blameless. Eliphaz has it backwards. Eliphaz doesn't understand it. You put your confidence in the fact that you're doing good, and we all do this. We can't help but do this. That's why we have to preach gospel over and over and over and over and over again, because we don't get it, and we don't keep it, and we lose it, because it's backwards from everything that we do. Now, Job had that. Job has integrity. Job sees bad things coming from above, and he sees good things coming from below. Job is now seeing things backwards, because if God didn't do it, he's going to ask later, then who did? So the only relief that Job can find is in death. And here's the reason. But it is still my consolation. The King James Version has comfort. Remember, the friends came to give comfort? This is my comfort. This is big. This is really big. And I will rejoice in unsparing pain. Here's where I get my comfort. Here's where I get my consolation. And I will rejoice in unsparing pain, that I have not denied the words of the Holy One. There's the book of Job right there. This is Job's reason for wanting death. And this gives us more insight into understanding Job and understanding what it means to be blameless and to fear God. This is important. It's important for understanding the entire book of Job, and it's important for understanding how our lives are supposed to be. What is his comfort? That he dies without cursing God. What is his comfort? That he dies without denying the word of God. Stay faithful to God to the point of death. His friends and his wife did not bring him this type of comfort. He says, you want to bring me some comfort? Help me hold on so I do not deny my God and His Word. There's the comfort that we have to bring to a suffering person. Brad had to leave, so I'm going to steal from his Wednesday night class without giving acknowledgement. Plagiarism from Wednesday night. Actually, Brad said that Job and Revelation have so much in common, and they do. They're all about remaining faithful till death. Do not fear what you're about to suffer. I don't like to hear those words. Something really bad's going to happen to you, don't worry about it. Who wants to hear that? Behold, the devil is about to cast some of you in prison so that you will be tested, and you will have tribulation for 10 days. Be faithful till death, and I will give you the crown of life. There's what Job needed to be here. He needed to have his friends come up and read the book of Revelation to him. Just hang on. The crown's coming at the end. And also, in Hebrews, we have all of these faithful prophets, faithful people in the 11th chapter. And when he gets down to the end, he says, all of these, having gained approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised. You're not going to get it in this life. The promises that we want are not in this life. We are not trying to find our best life now. And that's what we saw in James. That's why we started out in our first class in the book of James to show that Job is a prophet, and the prophet was showing us that we hang on until the Lord returns. The end comes at the end. We're not living our best lives now. And success is not the measure of blessings or faithfulness. We're never told to be successful in the Bible. Never told to be successful. We're told to be faithful and wait for the return of the Lord. And we're going to jump to the back of the book because I always like to find out how, I want to make sure that Jason Bourne's still alive at the end of the book. I got to know that or I'm not going to watch it. If they would have told me Old Yeller got shot, never would have watched the movie. I hope I didn't ruin that one for you. But he says, because, talking to Eliphaz and his three friends, because you have not spoken to me what is right, as my servant Job has. Job doesn't fail. We know that because we jump to the back of the book. And we know that actually from the beginning of the book. In all this, Job does not sin with his lips. He doesn't curse God. He doesn't give up on God. But he doesn't put his faith in his blamelessness. He doesn't put his faith in his fear of God and his sinlessness. He puts his faith in God. And that's the tough concept of understanding gospel. So, God did not put all of this just on anyone. We don't put ourselves in the place of Job and say, I'm Job right now. Job happened to Job and was written for our learning. So all of this stuff that happens to Job, all of these that Job goes through, and all of these writings are so that we can kind of figure out gospel, so that we can figure out what Jesus went through and what Jesus did, and how we're to look at God's Word, and how we're to look at God, and what God's doing in the background, how God runs His universe. We're supposed to be seeing all those things, not sliding ourselves into the place of Job. So, Job's motivation, Job's heart is seen here. That's why God told Satan, have you seen my servant Job? He's blameless and he fears God. And now we're beginning to see what that means. Remember that song? I don't know if we even have that in the new songbook. I was going to look. O thou fount of every blessing. That's what this song is about. O to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let that goodness like a fetter. A fetter is a prisoner's chain. Chain me with that goodness. Bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart. Take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. There's the book of Job right there. And we mix that up. Every one of us mixes that up. And we look at what we do good rather than looking at who God is and what God has done on the cross. Now, what is my strength that I should wait, and my end that I should endure? Is my strength the strength of stones, or my flesh bronze? Is it that my help is not within me, and that the deliverance is driven from me? Job's asking here, how much more can I take? I'm not made out of stone. I'm not made out of bronze. Is it my own strength that I'm supposed to live through this? And is the deliverance, is it taken away from me and the deliverance given to someone else? How much am I supposed to take? Brad said Wednesday night, sometimes you're supposed to endure. And that's what the book of Revelation is teaching us. Sometimes you're supposed to endure. Now Job shows his disappointment in his friends. The responsibility of friends during extreme suffering. Here's something we can learn. For the despairing man, there should be kindness from his friends, so that he does not forsake the fear of the Almighty. And this word kindness is actually the word covenant. For the despairing man, there should be a covenant with his friends. Jim has spent since spring talking off and on about covenant and about fellowship and using the word partnership. And so he showed that the apostles had a partnership. And he showed that Philemon and Paul, they had a partnership. And the elders and the preachers are to have a partnership. And the family of God is supposed to be a partnership. Sometimes we use the word fellowship. And when we use the word fellowship, we mean chicken wings and coffee. We fellowship together. And that's an important part of fellowship. But we need to understand that it's a partnership and that we're all in this together. Job accuses his friends of not being friends. They're not in covenant. They're not in partnership with him. They should be saying things to help him, like, don't forsake God now. I don't know what he's doing. Don't give up on him now. He's still God. That's what they should have said. But instead, they're looking for an excuse and a reason that they can attack him. So the church should be a covenant of friends. And it's not easy. The bigger the church gets, the fewer people we know intimately, and there are people that just are quiet or something and they get lost in the cracks. So we work at helping one another. My brothers have acted deceitfully, like a wadi, like torrents of wadis that vanish. They are turbid because of ice into which the snow melts. You ever see those pictures of ice out when a river will just finally break through? That's the most dangerous part of a river right there, where the ice just finally gives up, and it'll happen in one day. And in the Yukon River, I think it happens on the same day every year, within a day or two. And it breaks, and they videotape this thing, and it's tearing trees down, and all that destruction you see on the side of rivers when you go fishing or something, all that destruction there, most of it takes place because of the ice out. Because there's too much water, and it's moving too fast. Verse 17, when they become waterless, they are silent. When it is hot, they vanish from their place. So you can have a river in the spring that's just overflowing its banks, and you go back in the fall, and there's no river there. The river's completely gone. And so the paths of their course wind along, and they go into nothing and perish. And the caravans of Tema looked, and the travelers of Sheba hoped for them, and they were disappointed, for they had trusted. And they came, and they were confounded. So these caravans come through, and they go through, and they go, whoa, look at the water here. Then they get their supplies, and they turn around for their return trip, and the river's gone. And they were counting on that. They put their trust in, they put their faith in the fact that they were going to have some water for their camels and for themselves, and it's gone. It's not there. We went to California a few years ago, and I bought a really thick book, Fishing the Sierras, Fly Fishing the Sierras. I paid $40 for this book, most highly recommended book on fishing that area. And I bought the maps, and I got the places where you can buy the right flies, and I loaded everything in there, and I read it, and I marked, I had highlighted, and they said if you go to this one river, the Truckee River, it comes out of Lake Tahoe. The river's wide, but it's shallow, and anywhere along the freeway, you can just slide down the hill and you're fishing. Just great. So we went out there, and we drove along the Truckee River. They had a 4 or 5 year drought. It had not rained one time. It had not snowed in 4 or 5 years, and the river wasn't just shallow. It was gone. I actually fell down a hill on the side of the freeway trying to get a picture trying to show just how huge this river was, and there was no water in it. And this is what he's talking about. He's anticipating when his friends come up that they're going to help him, they're going to give him something, and when he gets there, he can't even wade across the river. It's gone. There were targets set up where guys were shooting long-range rifles where the river was straight. So you'd see these targets out there, and the guys had the stands made up so they could take these 1,000-yard shots down the river because there was no water there. There were guys driving their cars down there. There's no water. It's of absolutely no help to Job's thirst. So they bring him nothing. They don't bring him refreshment. They don't bring him anything that he needs to eat. And what does Job expect of them? What does Job expect of them? We're going to move real quick through this next part here. Have I said, give me something, or offer a bribe for me with your wealth, or deliver me from the hand of adversary, or redeem me from the hand of tyrants? Teach me and I will be silent. And if you want to accuse me something, show me where I have erred. Tell me what it was I did wrong, because I don't know. Painful words are honest words are painful. But what does your argument prove? You intended to reprove my words when the words of one in despair belong to the wind. Now, he says, give me something concrete that I've done. Give me something concrete that I can do. Tell me honestly where I went wrong. I've said that I didn't do anything, and you're calling me a liar. Verse 25, he says, your argument doesn't work. It doesn't prove anything. You're just talking. You're just like in the wind. And in verse 26, it says, you guys are sitting here having a philosophical discussion over coffee. Guys sitting there suffering, and they're having coffee. What should we do? You're not even listening to the words I'm saying. You're bartering. You're bartering over a friend. You guys are armchair philosophers. You're not wheelchair theologians. You're just making stuff up, and the stuff you're making up is not true. And then he goes on and says that you'd get in a poker game over orphans. You'd barter over a friend. See if I'm lying to your face. Go ahead. You're calling me a liar. So in verse 27, he says, we see that it's not until the cross that it's going to make any sense out of this pain and suffering. It's not going to be made sense here. And so he's going to ask a question, why do I matter? And he's going to make an appeal to God, leave me alone. Why do I matter to you? And then he says, leave me alone. Okay, chapter 7. Is not a man forced to do labor on his earth? So now he goes on and he shows that all we are is a bunch of slaves. We work and work, and now it's starting to sound like the book of Ecclesiastes on a rainy day. This is my life is a waste now, and I can't sleep and I can't do anything. And then he says, my flesh is clothed with worms, and this is probably literal here. My days are faster than a weaver's shuttle. You ever watch that weaver's shuttle go back and forth? This is my days. They're gone. They're gone. They're all run together. My life's but a breath. My eyes will not see good again. The eye of him who sees me will behold me no longer. Your eyes will be on me, but I will not be. When a cloud vanishes, it is gone, and so he goes down into Sheol and does not come up. He will not return again to his house, nor will there be any place for him anymore. You die, and you're gone. Now, I worked with a guy who, he got drafted back in 1969, and he was gone for 18 months. He worked on the assembly line at Buick, and he was gone for 18 months. He went to Southeast Asia, served his time, came out, got released early, came back to work. And the guy working on the line next to him said, have you been on vacation? He didn't even miss him. And that's what he's saying here. You're going to put me in the ground, and how long after you're in the ground people go by, I wonder who that was. Do you think he's related to so-and-so? I don't even know who's in there. Put these great big tombstones, we don't even know who's in there. And nobody cares. So in verse 8 he says, you will look for me, but I will not be there. And then he goes on, therefore I will not restrain my mouth. I'm going to die anyway. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. This is key. Am I the sea or the sea monster that you should set a guard over me? Remember we talked about Leviathan, the coiled sea serpent? Here he is again. He's telling God, shouldn't you be getting control of Satan rather than punishing me? Remember he said that he was being crushed? You want to crush somebody, crush the head of the serpent. Don't crush me. Here we have a picture of the serpent needing to be crushed and the innocent being crushed. We have the innocent actually being crushed. Okay, That's the picture here. So we want to keep track of the sea serpent as he goes through here. Okay, one more point. Verse 20. Have I sinned? What have I done to you? How important is my sin? How important is my sin to God? Why does it matter that I sin? Job's asking this question. So what if I did sin? How does that hurt God? And then down in verse 21, if I did sin, why don't you pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? Why don't you just forget about it, God? Why don't you just forget about those things there? And so Job is caught between what he believes and what he sees, convictions and experience. See why the religion of personal experience is so dangerous and is so bad? Because God is running the world a different way than Job and his friends think it is. So there's two things here. What difference does it make if I sin? Why can't you just pardon my sin? And why are you crushing the innocent instead of crushing the head of the serpent? And so now we're starting to get a picture of what the gospel is all about. And Job is now seeing that things are more complex, and he's beginning to investigate. And the book of Job and Job's discussions are going to start pulling us closer and closer into understanding our God and his gospel. Any questions or comments? Well, I think all of us would probably say that, but that doesn't mean my problems aren't hard on me. That doesn't mean that a person's problems aren't just as destructive.
Right. Isn't that kind of one of the shortcomings, though? I mean, of the law, it was written back then. I mean, that kind of leads into this whole thought process of me doing good, keeping this, and then I receive the reward versus now through grace.
But the law was never intended to be that way. When they got the Ten Commandments, remember how they started out. I'm the God that just brought you out of the land of Egypt, and I'm the one that created the universe, and I'm the one that has saved you. Therefore, you keep these commandments. It was always based on God first. The keeping of commandments is, we said last week, there's always an indicative before there's an imperative. There's always the commands, there's always the things that God has done before there's the commands. He loved us before we loved him, but that was true even in the law. And so even though the law was built on these physical things, the gospel was built into that law, and it should have been seen. So when the Pharisees come along, then they begin, like Job's friends, they begin to build their hope on what they have done and how good they are. And that's the mistake. And you got to read this careful, I think, in order to see that. And I think that's a lot of problem with the book of Job is we're not reading it idea by idea.
Well, it's kind of like when you look at that, Hall of Fame, as you call it, of the faithful men. I mean, the person that just looks at that, just on the surface, thinks David was considered a good and faithful man. I mean, so. Yeah.
But he was till the end. Yeah, he was to the end.
And that's the difference with those men and women in Hebrews 11. They start to realize they're the ones that realize that what I'm doing isn't enough. I need God's grace, and the only way that's possible, they could see from afar that there would be a Savior. That's why it says of Moses in Hebrews 11, for Christ he forsook the wealth of Egypt, and he was, and David in some places he's looking. My Lord said to the Lord, "Sit thou at my right hand."
And all of them up to Abraham, it says they were looking for a city. It wasn't here. They know it's not here, and we got too many that are looking for what's going on here. In the third round of Rocky II, I think it is, Apollo Creed's going over to his corner, and Rocky goes, "I'm still standing here." And at the end, no matter how beat up and battered we are, no matter how many questions we are, no matter how much we think we have failed, or no matter how much we do not understand, we need to be standing there. And that's our encouragement to one another. And it's lost on the programs of the church, and it's lost on the works of the church, and it's lost on the preaching where you can have your best life now. Gospels are out there. We're got to be standing at the end, and that's our goal of working with each other. Thanks for coming.